Welcome back to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. We are back with our 25 Days of Christmas. This is episode 3. We have the perfect guest to come in. No stranger to live and amplified. You've been in several of our live streams during the pandemic. We did some acoustic stuff. We have Alicia Stockman. How's it going?
It's good. Thank you so much for inviting me back.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of talked before this. We've been trying to find the right time to do this, and you announced the Christmas song. I was like, okay, we got this. Let's get this lined up. So it was like kind of like the lining of the stars.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
Yeah. So since this is officially your first time on the podcast, kind of for anybody that's just getting to meet you for the first time and getting introduced to Alicia Stockman, what's kind of your story? What got you into music?
So I'm based in Heber City, Utah, and how far back do we want to go?
Just a brief overview, like a brief overview.
Yeah, I guess I came up, I started playing music I would say I really started playing music in college. I got a guitar for Christmas before I went to college because my dad was worried I was going to steal his, so he gave me a guitar. And started writing songs in college, just some angsty, emotional little ditties, and then joined a rock band. And I was in a band after college for a long time. And then when I got back to my roots of writing these kind of folk-inspired songs, they didn't really have a place in my band. So I was not forced to, I guess I allowed myself to go explore that folk version of myself, the folk Americana songwriting that I really enjoyed. So I've been a songwriter, releasing my own music and doing the solo thing for quite some time now. But I think that answers the question.
Yeah, nope, perfect. It was absolutely perfect. I kind of like to use that opportunity to, give everybody kind of like a brief overview on what your story is. So you're based out of Utah. Are you born and raised in Utah, or where are you from originally?
I am born and raised. I'm sorry. There's dogs. There's mailman's probably here.
It's all good.
But yes, I'm born and raised in Utah. My parents are actually from Buffalo, New York, and they moved to Utah to be ski bums back in the 70s. And so my sister and I grew up here, and we are also ski bums. And it's just a very beautiful place, and kind of decided to stick around. It's been a little tough for music because every other city is at least an 8-hour drive from here, but it is really gorgeous, and I do love living here.
Yeah, fair enough. It's kind of like when I was living out in New Mexico. It's like you're driving 3 hours for not quite 8 hours, but you're driving at least 3 or 4 hours to get to the next city. So.
Oh yeah. Like Denver is a solid 8 hours. Like I think Boise is like 5 or 6. Like it's a hike to things, but.
For sure. So, so we're here for the Christmas. This is a Christmas podcast. We're doing our Christmas series. You have a new song out. What's kind of the story of this song?
The song is called "Recipe for a Merry Christmas Eve." Kind of a long title, but pretty clear and to the point. I wrote this song last year, right around Christmas time, so a little bit too late for last year. So I had high hopes of making sure that it got out for this year. But basically, it was given to me as a song prompt. The prompt was to take a family recipe from the holiday season and start writing memories around that, and just start doing some sense-bound writing around whatever recipe. And so from there, I just kind of made the song into a recipe. So the recipe I used was my mom's pecan puff recipe. It's from Joy of Cooking. She makes them perfectly, and I don't know, they're it's just not Christmas without them. And so that's what the song is based on, and then spins out from there of all the other Christmas traditions that my family holds and we keep every year. So yeah, that's where the song came from.
That's really cool. And you said you started working on it last year?
Yeah, early December last year, and I finished it right after Christmas. And so I put it in the hopper, and I was like, oh, well, let's make sure we get this ready for Christmas of 2023.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, you were in the mood, but then obviously being in the Christmas spirit to write a Christmas song, but then you're not going to get it out in time. But at some point you do have to record it. So how long was kind of like the recording process for a Recipe for a Merry Christmas?
I recorded in June, so I went to
Okay.
Nashville in June and recorded 4 singles, and the Christmas song is one of them. So we busted out some sleigh bells in the middle of June, made it happen.
Nice.
But yeah, so that means I have 3 more singles that are coming out, but they're not holiday songs, just different songs that I didn't know if they were going to have a place on an album or not. So I was like, let's
Hmm.
just record them, have some fun, and try something new, and go from there. But the Christmas song was definitely, I'm like, this has to happen. We're doing this now.
Yeah, it's it like just going and recording in general with no project in mind. That's always kind of a just a fun little, not fun little thing because that sounds like mean or what, but it's just like it gives you an opportunity to, uh, just kind of get some stuff recorded and there's no like intention like or no real expectation of it to be released by these days. Obviously the Christmas song, yes, there was a little bit of an expectation to have it ready by 2023 or for Christmas this year. Well, yeah, that's
Yeah, this year.
yeah.
Yeah, to your point, totally. Like, there was something nice about just being like, I like these 4 songs that
Mm-hmm.
don't have anything to do with each other. But then it was interesting because trying to put together a release schedule,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know what I was going to do. And then I'm like, well, I do know I have to get this out by this time for
Yeah.
Christmas. And so then that made me make decisions for the other songs and put them in the hopper for early next year. But yeah, it was really fun to go in with no pressure, no plan other than just like, I want this song to sound like this. I want this song to sound like this. And then they got to each be kind of individual
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, and then when I release them, they're all going to kind of have their own little trajectory. And it's simultaneously less pressure, but also like I have to come up with way more ideas.
Yeah,
So there's
it's
that.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So with Recipe for a Merry Christmas, um, you said it came from a song prompt. Was that like just something you were doing for fun, or were you like in a class for that, or where'd the kind of the song prompt come from? I guess.
I was in a songwriting group
Mm-hmm.
online. We did it on Zoom,
Nice.
and yeah, it was Amy Spees. She does a song salon, and it was one of the prompts from her songwriting workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea going back to the workshop every other week and getting feedback and just learning, how to make your songs better.
Mm-hmm.
And that song, I just kind of ran with the idea, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna write this, and so
Nice.
that's what I got from it.
That's cool. See, that's a really cool way to do song prompts because there's like actual face to face kind of like a commitment. Because I remember like beginning of the year, we tried to do some like song prompts and stuff, but nobody was committed to anything. So it was just kind of like I was throwing out prompt ideas, but not really getting any feedback off of it because it's like, oh, yeah, that if I have time, I'll do it. But like doing it through a songwriting it was just a group, right? Not necessarily a class.
Yeah, it was a very small group, but we
Mm,
met regularly, so it was accountability is important. I do agree with you. If you don't, I've been in Facebook songwriting groups before, and it and
mm,
it, it you get like excited up front, and then like something happens, and then they're like, why don't we just reschedule, or like, why don't we just
yeah,
do this, or just post your song by the end of the month, and that self-regulation is just like hard to stick it out. So
yeah,
it is nice to have some accountability. It's like going to the gym and having a trainer and
yeah,
making sure you get your stuff done.
yeah. For sure, for sure. So, do you have any aspirations of doing like a music video for this, or did you do a music video, or?
No, I didn't. I think this year this is just this is a learning
Mm,
project
yeah,
of I don't know, and budget and everything. It's just like
yeah,
I've never done Christmas music before, so I wanted to learn what it's all about, like how I can capitalize on it, how I can get it in the most people's hands. And I think because I'm a folk Americana songwriter, I know that lane really well of where I
hmm,
want my songs to live. And
hmm,
with Christmas, I feel like you have so many different options. And so I think I was already learning enough as it is. I have higher hopes. There's another song that I'm releasing in March that I would really like to do music video
yeah.
for. So I'm kind of like saving my budget for that one.
Nice, awesome.
But yeah.
What was one of the you said so you this was kind of a learning experience for you? What was one of the takeaways that you got from like actually putting a Christmas song out there?
Uh, I think before I got to release day, I was like, "Oh, I've got this. This is a Christmas song. You just
Hmm.
send it out like you do with your other stuff." But then I
Hmm.
was like, oh, there's like a whole world that just does Christmas music.
Hmm.
And internationally, it's different. Like, uh, I released a song on November 1st because in other countries where they don't have Thanksgiving, they're just
Hmm.
like full send Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to talk about your Christmas song before Halloween.
Yeah.
But you're like, it comes out next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah. Right.
And
And
so, yeah, it was just, I'm like trying to wrap my head around like when and where it should go. I'm like, oh, this is actually more than I thought it would be.
yeah, because that was I learned that one really quickly when I was recording the first episode for this series. It was an artist from Australia, and they don't have like a Thanksgiving like that where it like kicks off the holiday season. And she's like, "Yeah, I've been ready for Christmas for like weeks already," and I'm like, man, I'm just trying to get through Thanksgiving right
Yeah.
now. Like, I'm trying to get through that, and then we'll start geared up for Christmas and all that stuff. And but then, as you kind of said that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess like not a lot of places, or if any other places, don't really have like something like a Thanksgiving or something that kind of kicks off the holidays.
Yeah.
So,
I know that I submitted it to a bunch of different like playlisters and radios, like it did like online radio stations,
mm-hmm.
and a bunch of radio stations in France were like, yeah, and they started sharing it in early November. And I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, cool. So in France, they're just like full Christmas.
nice. That's really cool. That's hey, I mean, it gives the song some more life because if it had to live within the confines of like November 24th and December 25th, it's like, yeah, I get it, but at least you get a little bit more play off of it because
Hmm.
international audiences and whatnot. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, obviously the approach to releasing Christmas music is very different because you've only got the like a certain time of the year that people will want to listen to it. I mean, I guess you could listen to it all year round, but people might start saying some things about you. Um, but as you kind of went through this process of learning how to release music, was there anything that you kind of learned that you would apply to like just releasing music in general? Like,
Yeah, I guess I'm still learning. I haven't released new music in 2 years
mm-hmm.
since November 2021. And so I'm like reteaching myself how to do it. And between then and now, like TikTok is a whole thing that
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of a thing, but not like it is now. Like it's
Yeah,
weird how just 2 years makes such a big
yeah,
difference. And so I guess I am like totally open to pointers right now
mm-hmm.
because
Yeah,
I don't know without a publicist how to like get in contact with certain playlisters.
mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for people to play it, but also like I'm like kind of mad at Spotify right now.
Yeah,
So
fair.
so I'm like, part of me wants to get playlisted, but part of me also doesn't want to put all my eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
So just trying to get in front of people who actually care about it. And then
Mm-hmm.
like I'm kind of going more of a grassroots campaign
Yeah.
of like getting it to my fans and
Yeah.
my friends and my family and people who I know who will like it, and real humans instead of just like an algorithm.
Yeah.
And maybe at some point the algorithm will catch on, but I feel like I just don't want to put all my eggs into a basket that may or may not translate into anything of benefit. I'd rather
Fair.
know what the humans on the other side are thinking about this song
Yeah.
and enjoying it.
Fair. And one of the things that might be of interest to you, and it'd be too late for this year. You'd have to kind of look at it for next year. But I know Hallmark makes a very big push during Christmas. So trying to get like sync placement in
Hmm.
Hallmark would be, from what I understand, it's not too incredibly hard to at least get your name out there. But just obviously kind of getting picked up is a gamble and a half. But
Yeah,
that
and
that might be so.
that's what someone told me. Well, someone told me like good advice with Christmas music is like if, whatever you learn this year, she's like, there's always next year. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the nice thing about Christmas music is it's not, it might not be a new release next year, but I still think it's gonna age pretty well, I
Mm-hmm.
think, compared to,
Yeah.
I feel like in this industry, it's there's the 2 year album cycle or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think with Christmas music, they're like, you put your favorite tracks on every year, regardless. Like I
Yeah.
have one of my favorite Christmas songs is by Kathleen Edwards. It's
Mm-hmm.
Christmas time. Let's just survive.
Yeah.
And I listen to it every year. I love it. I usually play it at shows or on a live stream every year. I love that song. Like, it doesn't matter that it's not a new release anymore. Like, I'm fine with it. So to your point, like, it might not be right this year for Hallmark, but I also know that Hallmark, it can take 2 years for them to put out a film for Christmas. So, you know, it's not too late.
No, it's never too late. You know, and it's one of those things, like you said, every year a Christmas song kind of gets new legs. So if you have a song and you don't necessarily have to rush back out next year and get a new one out, because the Recipe for a Merry Christmas Eve, I mean, the standard life cycle doesn't necessarily apply to Christmas music.
Right.
I mean, look at Mariah Carey. Like, she's got one Christmas song and she's been living off it for
what is it? Is it how
20 years?
Is it 20 years?
20? I feel like it might
30?
be.
No, it's 20.
No,
it's 20.
But you know, she's got to be. She's lives off that every year, and I mean, she gets sued every year over it. But you know, that's a completely different story.
Yeah. I think if we're doing the public a service by releasing new Christmas songs, so Mariah Carey is not our only choice.
Yes, I agree. So Recipe for a Merry Christmas Eve, it's out now, Spotify, all that fun stuff. And it's an absolutely wonderful song. Were you experimenting with your sound a little bit on this one? Because for whatever reason, in the back of my head, I felt like it sounds a little bit different than your normal style.
Yeah, I would. Oh, for sure. I think with this one, one of the things I've been saying about this song is I usually try to stay away from cliches in folk and Americana songwriting. That's, you know, what we are taught. It's technique. But it was really fun with this song to, like, it's Christmas, lean into the cliches. Like, it's all about the cliches. So it makes, like, traditions and those things. And so I was definitely feeling one of my favorite Christmas albums is Dean Martin's A Winter Romance, which has a cameo appearance in the song. Nat King Cole, kind of like She and Him, their Christmas album. I've definitely, like, leaned into that vibe. So I went with that, which put me in this weird space of, like, is this like borderline jazz?
I was picking up the old school. I was picking up the old school jazz, like a little bit of Dean Martin, something like that. And I was just sitting, I was like, man, this just takes me back to Christmas Eve. Like, mom and dad are trying to get us out of the kitchen, and it's like, okay, turn on the music and you guys go play or something, you know?
Exactly.
And
So yeah, that's exactly it. And it's funny, even just writing the song, I was, like, looking up like what jazz chord I was looking for. Like, I'm very proud of this, but in the bridge I put a minor 1 in the bridge, which music nerds are going to be like, what? Anyway, maybe they won't be, but I thought it was cool.
Nice.
But that was like a jazz move, and that's way outside the realm of what I would normally write.
Yeah, for sure. It was like one of the first things I picked up on, because I was like, oh, this sounds different. It sounds cool. And it's like, not saying that needs to be like the permanent move for you, but just kind of visiting that realm every once in a while might be a cool idea for you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was fun. I love, like, the music of it, which is like, oh, like, I might go off the deep end to, like, jazz music someday. But the chords are just really fun to put together, and it's fun to play. And I think that this song, the music and the melody are tied in very closely. It's quick chord changes, and it was really fun to put together and write. So I'm like, it's way more fun to play than a 1-4-5 country ballad.
Nice. And so how often are you out playing right now? Like, are you playing this song out pretty often, or?
Right now I'm kind of into a shoulder season. I toured a lot last year, and so this year has kind of been easing up on it, making fewer trips and shorter trips where I can go play. Like we were talking earlier, I was in Texas for Dripping Springs, and just flew out and then flew home instead of driving 5,000 miles in a big, huge loop to get there. But right now I'm kind of, with releasing these singles, I've just kind of scaling back on traveling and playing out and focusing more on writing and releasing. So I am playing a few local shows. I live kind of in a very touristy area where I get the opportunity to play, like, some chill, fun, like, kind of background music, which is kind of nice. It's a good place for this song to live. But I am doing a show in next week on December 9th in Ogden, we're doing a Christmas bazaar, like a Christmas market themed release party with the song and some Christmas adjacent music and a special release kombucha that my friends at Sun Tea Kombucha are making to pair with the song.
Nice.
So they're like making up kombucha with the flavor profile that matches the song at their distillery, and then we're gonna like play the song, we're gonna play music, we're gonna have like Christmas stuff. So that is gonna be really fun, like kind of Christmassy themed event.
That's a cool event. That's one thing I really like being in a town like in Heber City or in like Waco where I'm at. You got all these like really cool events that are just like very holiday themed. Like, you know, we've got all kinds of different fun stuff going on. And that's one of my favorite times. This is why it's one of my favorite times a year, because it's like you got all these cool, unique things kind of going on. So,
and they're pretty like DIY too, where it's like, what should we do? And like, it's very like homegrown, and which I like. And then you have more control over what you want to do, and it feels more community based instead of like, I don't know, like promotion based, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm still looking for a Santa pub crawl. That would be really fun, but you know.
We have a Santa pub crawl in Park City. Come do it.
Nice. Nice. I've only been to Park City once, and I swear my car was going to explode trying to get around Park City.
Why?
Because my car at the time was just kind of on its last legs before it was starting to have some issues. And I was just driving up I was going to, do you know who Robin Cage is?
I do, yes.
Yeah. We were going to her place to go film some acoustic stuff. And like, she lives up in like this really hilly part of, well, I mean, I guess Park City in general is just hilly, but you know, she was living up there, and I was like, my car was just like moaning and groaning the entire way up. And I'm like, oh no, this isn't going to be good, but we'll make it. So,
and the air is thin. Yeah. Poor car.
Yeah. But, so no, that's cool. I'm glad you're still out playing shows. I'm glad you're touring. You know, that's the first time we met it was right before the pandemic, right?
Yeah. It was, I think it was February of 2020 was my Texas tour, like the first time I toured Texas and was learning the ropes. I think that was that when I rented the smart car? I think
yes,
that might have
you
been.
Came up in like a little so it was because I remember we were supposed to, or we were up in that when we were up in Utah the year before, and we were going to try and get something together, and it was just like I think we'd finally connected very last minute. I think we were like in Salt Lake or something, and it was just like we're not, I don't think this is gonna work, but we'll get another time in. But you know, and then you just happen to be in Texas the next year, so
I learned a lot on that tour. I think I did 1,100 miles in Texas in a smart car. And next note to self, do not book a show in Fort Worth and then a show in New Braunfels the next day.
That's a little bit of a hike, yeah.
That was not the move.
Yeah, it's New Braunfels. Have you been back to New Braunfels since?
I love New Braunfels, yeah.
I keep telling my dad, it's like if I could find a job around New Braunfels, that's where I would like set up shop for a good while.
It's cool. I like that area a lot.
So that's where the that festival that I was telling you about, that's where that's at, is in New Braunfels. It's like right on the river. It's at a campground. It's hot, cool, all at the same time. So
cool.
Yeah.
Wimberley. I think if I was gonna, I think that would be the spot for me.
Nice.
It'd be Wimberley, Texas.
Is that near Dripping Springs, or is that more? Where's that at?
I think that's more. It's escaping. I think it's kind of closer to New Braunfels, but it's not as far south, I think. But
gotcha. I mean, I guess I got Google right here.
They have a great radio station there.
Nice. That's cool. There's a lot of like little places in Texas that are just like you'd expect it to be like small town Texas, but it's just like the coolest spots. So awesome. So since this is a Christmas podcast, this is our Christmas special. What is your favorite memory from your childhood at Christmas time?
One of the things that I love about Christmas was when my sister and I were kids, Santa would always leave us a scavenger hunt. So we'd
Mm,
get up in the morning and go to where the cookies were that we left out for Santa, and there would be a clue. And the clue would take you on like a scavenger hunt for other clues. And at the end was usually a set of some kind of Nerf gun or
mm,
weapon that we
yes.
could use to assail each other for an untold amount of time. I think it was so that mom and dad could maybe sleep in a little bit more.
Right.
But it always backfired because we'd terrorize each other until we got bored, and then we go wake mom and dad and be like, Mom, Dad, it's time for Christmas.
Yeah. You terrorize each other, and then they wake up to somebody crying because they
Or we just go, pelt them with Nerf darts until
right.
they woke up.
That's actually I've always had a dream of that. Is just buy instead of buying like regular gifts, just buying like kids' toys for everyone. Like, okay, we're gonna have a big Nerf war, or like
That's
something
actually
ridiculous.
an
Like,
awesome idea.
yeah,
We got one year they were like blow darts, but with like
hmm
suction cups at the
hmm
end. And they were like so accurate from a long distance. They were the best and the worst because you could like if you were the assailant,
yeah.
you could really hit your target, but if you were the victim, you would like get
It,
welts. It was great. It was a
it
great toy.
that's great. That's awesome. I love that. I love that so much. That's because I think I remember those guns or the blow darts that you're talking about. I think I
Yeah.
remember that. So
Just like suction cups, but they were awesome.
yeah,
They packed a punch.
nice. And then this time of year, obviously. And it's with the actual, I think everybody's the same exact actor that was in A Christmas Story, except for the mom. The mom,
Oh my
like,
goodness.
yeah, it's everybody but the mom. And
Okay,
then,
I'm here for it.
yeah, it's a good movie. Like, I had to explain it to my dad because he didn't quite. He was like, "Hey, it's just not the same," and I'm like, "No, that's the point." And I had to like explain it to him, and he's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I missed that." And I'm like,
Okay, well,
"Yeah,
I'll put that on the list for this year
yeah."
because I
I
do love that movie.
Yeah, I think it's on Is it on HBO Max? I think or
Okay.
Max, whatever it's called. Yeah.
I will
So
steal someone's login for that.
yeah, good call, good call. And then White Christmas. That one just recently kind of started climbing into my must watches
Mm.
every year. I think it was a couple of years ago. My grandma was watching it. I was at her house on Christmas Eve, and because I had to take her to where the party was at, and she was watching a White Christmas, and I was like, I've never actually seen a White Christmas, so let's sit here and watch this. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is actually pretty good. So,
And that's where the song came from. Like the song was written for the movie. So
mhm,
when you hear it like on all these albums that people covered, like it
yeah,
didn't exist until that movie came out.
yeah,
Whereas like there's so many other classics that like put the songs in the movies.
mm,
So that one is where that
that's
song
really
came from.
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So, so kind of looking forward now that the song's out. How's the reception been since the release?
It's good. I think people have really enjoyed it. I've
Hmm.
like tried to, pitch it to things and people and playlists and whatever. And for the most part, people's feedback has been really positive. Individually, like I said, I was trying to connect with the actual human beings and not just
Hmm.
playlisters. But they really liked it. I think it's funny because my boyfriend is Puerto Rican, and so his idea of Christmas music is vastly different from
Right.
mine. So when I talk about classic Christmas music, it fits in. But when he talks about classic Christmas music, we are not talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
But his dad has been sharing it with all of their Puerto Rican friends.
Yeah.
And so I have this little blip in my data of like Puerto Rico
That's cool.
taking on a new life in Puerto Rico, which is nice.
That's really cool. I had something similar to that happen during the pandemic with the podcast. I had a friend that was living in France, and I sent them like a couple of the episodes that I had just done, and then for like 3 weeks, the leading country in the podcast feed was France, and I'm like, where are all these French views coming from? And I'm like, Yeah. So
Like, bonjour.
yes. It almost made me want to try and find like more musicians in France just to kind of stay in that realm. But then I kind of realized what was going on. I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. So yeah. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat. If anybody wants to see a recipe for a Merry Christmas Eve or just interact with you on social or any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
I'm on all the things at Alicia Stockman Music, and then it's on all the streaming services. I do recommend Bandcamp, or you can go directly to my website if you want to download it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to put all my eggs in the Spotify basket, but I also don't, I also made a holiday playlist of my own that has the song on it and a bunch of my favorites. So, if you're on Spotify, ain't gonna judge, but if you want to buy it from Bandcamp or from me, that'd be cool.
Nice. That's awesome. I love the self-entrepreneurship there. Like that, and I keep telling musicians this, like, I think there is a world where you can stay relevant on Spotify and make Spotify work for you without putting all your eggs in that basket. Like, but it's one of those things where you just got to be like consistently releasing music, and it's like you got to be releasing a lot of music, and it's I think there's a way to do it, but just right now, as you're starting out, it's like it's a tough hill to climb.
It's also, I think, don't put your self-worth into it.
Yes.
As an artist.
Yes.
Use it as a tool for what you need it to be, but if you're measuring your success on Spotify numbers, it's going to be a tough time.
Oh,
so
yes.
I feel like it's more about the connections than anything.
Oh, yes. It's a tough hill to climb. It just in general, we did that for a long time here at Live and Amplified, where we were putting all our self-worth in the stats and what was going on. And then we had people hitting us up, telling us something different. And it was like, no, that's the comments that we're getting. That's the true test, like the stats and all that stuff. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But, yeah. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat. It's always good catching up. Next time you're in Texas, we'll have to try and get that to work out and, all that fun stuff. So
for sure. Absolutely. I'll be back. I'll be back.
Awesome. As long as there's not another C-word situation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But really appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you all later.
All right.